Welcome to Parenting Teens, the podcast where we navigate the ups and downs of raising teenagers. As founders of Ramp Nutritional Products for Teens, we're real parents going through the same challenges, and we bring on experts to offer unique insights and inspiration. Join our community and know you're not alone in your struggles. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Parenting Teens podcast. I'm Annie. I'm here with Simona, and today we have a wonderful guest named Christina Crook, who is going to be joining us to talk about all things digital health and well-being. Yay. So exciting. So before we jump in and learn all about digital well-being from Christina, I just want to tell everybody a little bit more about her background. So Christina is called the Marie Kondo of digital by Harper's Bazaar magazine. So she is a pioneer and leading voice in the field of digital well-being. She's an award-winning author of a book that I need to get and read called The Joy of Missing Out, Finding Balance in a Wired World, and a harbinger of the global JOMO movement and Good Burdens, How to Live Joyfully in a Digital Age. Christina regularly shares her insights about technology and our daily lives in international media. She's the creator and host of the JOMOcast podcast, where she interviews mindful tech leaders embracing the joy of missing out to thrive in a rapidly changing world. I think we all know a lot about this world that's changing so quickly right in front of our eyes. She recently launched JOMO Campus, a first-of-its-kind digital wellness program for students. So we are so excited to have you here today, Christina. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to have you here.
So before we maybe jump into the juicy question we got from our community, would you mind telling us maybe a little bit about what brought you to be really interested in the field of digital well-being and wellness, and kind of what brought you to this point? I'd love to know a little bit more about your backstory.
Yeah. So, I mean, like many good founder stories, this came out of a personal problem or challenge I had around technology use. So this is more than 10 years ago now. We moved from Vancouver to Toronto, so kind of across the continent for those of you who are listening from far away. And sort of in one fell swoop, all of my local connections and relationships all of a sudden were mediated in some way through the internet. And this was the early days of the start of social media. I mean, we're like really into Facebook. Instagram was just sort of like coming on the scene. And what I realized I was starting to do is that I wasn't putting in the work of directly connecting to friends and family far away, picking up the phone, texting a friend, setting up a FaceTime, that kind of thing. I was trying to just look at what people were posting to piece together a story of how that person was doing. And when I actually got on the phone to be like, oh, that brother looks like he's like killing it. I have a lot of brothers. And my parents were like, like, that's like not actually like the real picture, right? The whole thing of like,
yes,
the pictures are pretty, but this, the struggle is real. Like behind every one of those perfectly curated photos is a whole messy life that we are all living on a daily basis. And so I am a student of, media studies. That's my background. I studied communication at the School of Communication at Simon Fraser University and started my career with the CBC. And so I was always very keyed into both the benefits, but also the detriments of all new technology and how it shapes both a wider culture and obviously individual lives as well. And so I had a curiosity about what would happen if I completely disconnected from the internet. I wanted to figure out what kind of neighbor I would be. I had very new relationships that I was forming in my local community here in West Toronto. I wanted to figure out what kind of artist or creative I would be without constantly giving away margin to the internet. I had young children at the time, very, very small children at the time. I wanted to figure out what kind of parent I would be without that constant distraction. And so that's what I did. I took 31 days off of the internet entirely. I was self-employed. So this is, I had the freedom to do a thing that most people don't. And it's not something I'm a huge advocate for. I think doing things like one day fast or, trying to take like a tech Sabbath or however people like to sort of frame that in terms of like 24-hour period once a week to unplug as best as you can. But what I discovered during that 31-day period was, I kind of already alluded to it, I realized all those little 5-minute and 10-minute and 20-minute check-ins I was making on my phone actually, if I banked them, added up to a huge amount of margin I was giving away We all lament, especially as parents, I have no time. I'm so busy.
Mm-hmm.
So this goes for both, the young people, the teens using the technology, but also for ourselves as parents. How much are we giving that away? So that was really a huge eye opener for me. I also got to creative projects. Like poetry is kind of like my first love. And all of a sudden I'm like, I have time and like mental capacity for writing, like creatively for no other purpose, but for the joy of it, even with young children, even with other deadlines I needed to meet. So that's where my journey into building this strange, but I guess more and more mainstream expertise in digital well-being emerged from. And that led to the writing of my first book, The Joy of Missing Out, and then the podcast. And then JOMO kind of became a thing in the world. Like Oprah has said, with her bestie, Gail King, on their podcast, like, I am JOMO. Like that was quite a moment for us. When Oprah was saying it, she was like, I am JOMO. Like, she's like, peace out. Like, and Gail King is like, I'm FOMO, like all the way. She's like, so yeah, it's been quite a wild ride, and it's really an exciting time in our space because there's finally real consensus. And there's also like that this is a real problem. And there's actually now we have the longitudinal studies, to start to prove that, yes, there really is a problem here. And so now we have the opportunity, instead of trying to convince people that maybe their relationship with their technology is like a little unhealthy, we have consensus on that. Now we can just really focus on solutions. So happy to be here to have that conversation.
Yeah, I love how you talked about like those little margins that we give away. That really lands for me. And I've noticed recently I set like a timer on Instagram on my phone, because I just, with like work and all the businesses, it's like there's so many accounts, and I just found that it was just mindless eventually. And I've, even with just that 20-minute timer a day on, all of a sudden I'm like having more time to do these creative things. And they do just kind of come up in you, and forget about them when you're on your phone all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question, Christina. When you're talking about the technology or the digital well-being, are you mostly, are you mostly focusing on social media? Is that like a big part, or are we talking about the whole gamut, the whole everything? Are we talking about email, Slack, notifications, Teams message? Like, do you see it as one, or do you make distinctions? Are there verticals within that?
I mean, there definitely are, but I really approach it as all screens. And I even use the metaphor of navigating, because the reality is like everyone wants like the golden ticket, right? Like the silver bullet solution. Like, how do I solve this? And the reality is like every single one of us has different personal and professional demands. Where you primarily spend your time working might be on your phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like what I was just describing, or it might be on your laptop, or it might be, who knows, like in a creator studio, like being in front of literal cameras, filming you, because we are in a culture now where there's so much of that digital content creation. So I don't focus exclusively on social media, although that is the obvious. It is the obvious time waster. People lose the most time on social media. And that goes for, I literally gave a talk to a national law firm this week. It's still at that level. That's still where they're losing the majority of the time. But no, I'm talking about all of the screens.
Right. So even lawyers are wasting time on social media. Yes. Nobody is above or immune.
To bill or not to bill. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
Yeah.
And again, I want us to get to our sort of juicy question that our community gave us, which is, I'm sure on the minds of so many parents. But, could we take a minute and maybe talk about, and maybe this is evident for a lot of people, but like, why are we losing ourselves in social media? Like, what function? What is it serving us? Why do you think people are doing it? What are we getting out of this? Why are we all just sort of jumping in and just abandoning ourselves there?
There are many things that I think social media in particular gives us, I think it gives us a creative outlet, which can be a really positive thing. It is a place to go for some kind of validation. It is a place to build social connections. But what's the problem with it is that we're often trying to meet a legitimate need in an illegitimate way. So a question that I often will be asking is, okay, so why are you posting this? And then can you get that need met offline? The answer is often yes. Sometimes it's no. It's for promotional purposes, very practically for a job. But most of our personal use, we probably could be getting that need met in in an offline and a real world way. Another reason why we are so completely addicted to our technology is simply because it is designed to be addicting. We've, for those who've never heard of the hook model before, essentially what we're doing is a carrot is being dangled in front of us. So, Instagram does all kinds of creative things to get us to spend more time there. One of them is to withhold likes, to hold a bunch of likes in one little pocket and then release them all to you at once. And it just it's sort of this like dopamine loop, right? That we're being built to hunger for. It is like a slot machine, literally every time you go into your email. And that's why I don't only exclusively look at social media, because we do the same thing with our email. When we're going to our email, oftentimes it's like the slot machine. You're like, maybe there's something really, like maybe there's a new opportunity, maybe there's a juicy message from someone. And so these are the habits that we get into. So yeah, I know we have a short amount of time together, but those are my sort of quick and dirty answers on why we're kind of stuck there.
Yeah. No. Yes, that's it's hard to sort of tackle in one episode. Maybe we can have a part 2 where we just talk all about social media, but I know we got a really great question from our community, and maybe I'll turn it over to Simona to share that with you.
Yeah, so here's the question that came in. I feel like we're losing the battle with technology in our home. Our 14-year-old is always on her phone and totally disconnected from us. Now her 11 to be 12-year-old on her birthday also wants a phone. How can I rein in this beast and create some healthier habits without making my kids feel left out?
Yes. This is such a big one. I was looking at, because I keep tabs on all of these things, I came across an article where Madonna was quoted. This is a number of years ago now, where she has this deep, deep regret of giving her kids, even at the age of 13, phones, because she said it completely altered her relationship with her teenagers in a negative way. And we're hearing more and more of this. I love the stuff that came out with Jennifer Garner recently, where her kids aren't allowed social media. They do have phones, but they're not allowed social media. And we do the same thing in our house. Like, our kids have to basically create a PowerPoint presentation for what are the benefits of social media. If you can prove, show me with the studies that there's value there, then we can have a conversation about it. But there's just too much on the side of it not being a benefit. I mean, so a couple of things. I want to kind of talk about this in a way where we're talking about technology principles, and then we can kind of get into the practical things that this parent can do. So my whole thing, right, is the joy of missing out. So take FOMO, the fear of missing out, and flip it on its head. That's the joy of missing out. And I define JOMO as the joy of missing out on the right things, life-taking things like toxic comparison, loneliness, and hustle, to make space for life-giving relationships and projects. So that's really kind of the ethos that I want to encourage parents and teens towards. So what are the joys awaiting you when you use technology more mindfully, or when you're put it away altogether and actually engage in the real world? One of the things I would say to this parent is, I would encourage them to define their family values. So let's say you're a family that values peace, courage, and service. And that, I actually have a practical exercise I can share with your community when you post this out. I have a couple of different resources I would love to give to your community.
Yeah,
so let's say, great. Okay, amazing. Yeah, one of them is this values discovery process, and another one is creating a family digital well-being contract. And it's actually form fillable. So there's it's a smart document, so you can kind of plug in where you're going to set the parameters as a family. But the reason why I love to talk about building a values-based approach to technology is because it takes it like the pressure off of the like practical technical piece that you're getting frustrated with. And the fact is the technology also moves faster than our understanding and control of it. So you can be like, okay, we're going to really, really buckle down on like say for this family that where this question came from. Maybe the real problem is like the child is obsessed with TikTok. Okay. So like you get a handle on TikTok and you put in the parental controls and you do the things. It's going to be something else, or the platform is
Yes.
going to change, right? Like extremely quickly. So it's like we could
Mm-hmm.
talk about that and spend all of our time there, but really what I want to do is equip people with tools they can use for the long haul. So really practically, if you as a family get together even for a 50-minute discussion about like what do we really value here? These values can anchor your conversations and decision making around technology. So when you're running into issues like this parent right here, it provides like a practical starting place to make wise decisions, asking one another if your values are peace, courage, and service. You can ask, is this technology bringing you peace? Is this content or activity making you brave? Like if the value is courage, is this making you a braver person? Or are
Mm-hmm.
you hiding? Or are you using this technology to hide in some way? So often we're doing that, right? We're trying to hide from a bad feeling. We're trying to hide from a responsibility that we
Yeah.
need to do, whether it's like the chore in the house or homework, or even as adults, work we should be doing. So that's where I think the values piece, I would encourage sort of a values discovery within the family. And then I would talk about how we use tech matters to our happiness. So there's a wonderful study from a professor at Pratt University. She studied thousands of people and had them keep journals about their technology use. And what she discovered through this study, her name is Dr. Pamela Pavlicek, is she discovered that people who are happiest with technology actually use it in 3 distinct ways. They use it for creativity. So that's what we were talking about back at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
right? Making a thing and sharing it. There can actually be great value and joy in that. So creativity, community, like true community. And I talk often about how the more direct our connection is with a person, like a DM directly to like a person you really know versus just broadcasting, right, content and like hoping for that like the more direct that connection is, the deeper it is, and the more value there is there. And then care. So people who are happiest with technology use it for creativity, community, and care. And care can be care for others. Like we were talking
Mm-hmm.
before this call, like being able to reach your child at school when something really hard is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also care for self, right? We can use technology in all kinds of ways to support ourselves. I am a rower. I don't track the data, but someone on our boat tracks the data and she shares it out after our row, and we can see very meaningfully, right? We're getting better or not. That was a really poor row this morning. Luckily, this morning was pretty good. There's the care there. And then the final thing I'll say before I pass it back to you two for your sort of input on what I've shared is setting boundaries, is having clear boundaries. So young people really do appreciate boundaries and guidelines when they're clear and consistent and consulted on how they're enacted. So I was going to show, because you have video, one of the products we have here at JOMO. So this is called the JOMO box. It's literally like a phone box. So it says for better focus. So that's the school side. For great conversation, place phones in here.
Oh, I
So
love it.
I love
great
that.
conversation, place phones in here. We have like a little conversation deck that goes with here. So it's like a beautiful wooden box, right? You put your phones inside. You don't have to have this product, but having a consistent place to drop your phone at the door, for example, and
Yeah.
the family has a practice, right? The phones go in there, they're put away. Having the phone constantly on your person is a huge problem. I would
Mm-hmm.
strongly recommend to this parent that there is a place where the phone goes when you get home from school. It's not physically on your person all the time. What we know, and I had a hunch for years and years, but we now have the study that shows that fragmented people are healthier when they have a fragmented relationship with technology, when their phone time is broken up over the course of a day. So
Mm-hmm.
having some kind of drop point for the most mobile device, which is the phone, is a really good starting point.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, all of it, truly. But the values piece, I think, is just like really landed for me too as something that I'd want to look at with my family. And, my kids, I think you both know that they were away camping recently. And so we never bring like devices or anything in the car or camping. And they both came back and both of them noted, they're like, we weren't on screens for 5 days and we just felt so good. And then, of course, they came back and, the old routine started, which is fine. But it was just also so nice to just have that in their memory for them. It's like, oh, we've had this time and now we have this memory, and it was a good memory. So, yeah.
I love that. And that actually ties into like a principle that I talk about all the time, which is that the easiest way to get off technology is to find something better to do and to lean into it. Find something better, something that's life-giving. Like, I love that your kids have that anchor point. It's like they know what that felt like. We need the feeling of it. It's like we catch more bees with honey, like when they have something that feels really good, that you literally want more of it. It's like it builds that desire for more. So the more we can give that to our kids, I think the more they'll benefit.
Yeah, I feel like you said a whole bunch of things. I should have probably taken some notes, but a few things that stood out for me, which really resonated was, like almost like how Simona just pointed out, the values rather than the platform or the medium. Like, we can play whack-a-mole with these. What today it's TikTok, tomorrow it'll be whatever the next thing is, Snapchat, whatever. So it's rather than just focusing on that, focus on kind of build from the ground up. Again, just personally in our home, I can very much relate to this parent. I think we've kind of lost, like, I don't want to say we've lost our way. That sounds quite negative, but my kids are a little bit older. I think we gave them quite a lot of freedom and flexibility with it, probably to all of our own detriment. But to your last point about help them find something or let them find something that they enjoy more. So now our older son, who's 15, loves rugby and has discovered girls. And so now, like last night, he was out with a friend and was not scrolling on the couch. So, it does make me wonder also, do things also just, there's a phase and an era and a season for everything. And I'm not saying that, this means that now he's not going to be on TikTok endlessly. And I see some other interests starting to percolate as well. So I noticed that. I
love that. Very practically, I discovered a product recently. I'm going to actually pull up my phone here. And again, I'll share all these things with you to share out to your community. But it's called, I want to say it's called Insight Timer. But it's just a little app.
Insight Timer.
You download, do you know? No, sorry. Insight Timer is really good. No, this one's called ClearSpace. ClearSpace is a free app, and it's just one of those, like I talk about building in mindful friction or digital friction, just to make it a little bit harder to get to those mindless time sucks. And so ClearSpace, you just put it on your phone and it gives you a breathing pause. So before you go into, so it's set up so that if I try to open Instagram on my phone, it'd be like, time for your breathing exercise, and you do like one full inhale and one full exhale.
I love that.
You literally cannot enter the app until the breathing exercise is done, and it's basically always just enough time to be like, why was I even going there? I don't even want to do it. Or it automatically kind of like makes the Instagram app look dull. And I remember, oh yeah, I'm going to have to do the breathing exercise.
You're like, I'm not even going to bother.
I should want to, but it's just enough digital friction to make it.
Yeah, I love that too.
But to me, that's brilliant. I mean, again, putting friction, you're removing friction and putting friction in all sorts of habits that we're either trying to foster or shift. I think it's such a practical and applicable tool and hack in a way, if you want to call it that. I love that. I love it so much.
Yeah, me too. Great. So, yeah, we have a final question that we ask everyone, which is just around how you foster connection in your own family, with your children. So, just sharing a piece of that with our community.
Yeah, a recent thing is reading aloud to the kids. And my kids are now 9, 11, and 13, all about to have birthdays. So really starting to skew into that teen, preteen zone. But we recently spent 5 weeks in England, and I thought this is the moment. Like if I don't start reading the Narnia series to them right now, it's not going to happen. Like there's just not going to be the interest like around like all of their age groups, and that's always a tricky thing with parenting multiple kids. So we're reading aloud the Narnia series, and I'm Jane Eyre with my daughter, which I'm actually really excited about. So yeah, reading aloud.
Oh, I love that. And I love the Narnia series.
I know.
Such good fond
old memories. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Christina, where for our community who have listened to this episode and who love what you're talking about and would like to learn more, where's the best place for people to find you?
Yeah, they can go to experiencejomo.com. That's experience, JOMO.com.
Great. Thank you so much. And again, we just really appreciate you joining us today. We appreciate your time and all of your insights.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to Parenting Teens. We hope you found today's episode informative and helpful. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you want to dive deep into teen-related resources, visit our website at drinkramp.com. Do you have a teen-related question? Drop it on SpeakPipe at speakpipe.com/parenting teens. As always, we're here to support you on your parenting journey. Until next time.